What are some misconceptions people have about, title and escrow, or maybe like misunderstandings that you guys get a lot that we should clear up for people?
Yeah. I think some of the misunderstanding is that it's really I think it's the psychology of it because you would assume that now the buyer has been accepted, they're taking my offer, I put in the earnest money deposit, I'm going to sign my loan documents tomorrow and I'll get the keys on Saturday.
Yeah.
Ain't gonna happen. I gotta look at the camera to say that. Unfortunately, well, and fortunately for you, a lot of research has to go into the, checking the background for title.
Mhm.
And then you as the lender, you guys have to line everything up in underwriting and make sure all the dots match up, right? Everything lines up. And that takes a little bit of time. On top of that, inspections and everything's getting done. So I would say the biggest misconception is that, oh, it's easy breezy. We're going to close in a couple of days and it'll be fine and I'll get my keys and it'll be great. And it's not that it's not going to be great. It's just that I want you to anticipate maybe you're going to be asked for something that you already provided.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Maybe you already gave this bit of information to the loan processor, but the escrow officer is also needing it. And because we live in a time of such high threat for identity theft and fraud, if we're asking for a piece of personal information that you might have already given or that your client might have already given to you, we want them to give it to us as well because we would never want to misconstrue that information between us and the lender.
Right. Yeah. Lender's got to ask your permission, whether they can send it
Yes.
or not, whatnot. Yeah.
So we're going to ask you for some of the same things. Don't get frustrated. Don't think that the team is out here not doing their best for you, right? We have to remember escrow officers are sitting at their desk on average of 10 hours a day. They're working on multiple transactions, just like your team is too. And we are here to make for the smoothest experience, but there are so many cooks in the kitchen.
Right. A lot of cooks. I think that's something that buyers need to remember, is that I think what happens is a real estate transaction tends to bring out some emotion, some stress. So I empathize with people. You've got your job, you've got your family, you've got kids. Bless you. Kids are not always easy.
Yeah.
You got a lot of stuff going on. Then you've got title company. They need stuff from you. They're asking you questions. You've got agent. We're got to set up inspections. We need to do this. Got the lender saying, sign the initial disclosures, pay for the appraisal. And so there's a lot of stuff going on. And, buyers get overwhelmed, not realizing that like, we're all on the same team. We're all on this team together to get you from, point A, congratulations, your offer's accepted, to point B, which is you signed your final loan documents. We funded this thing. We recorded it. Here's your keys. And so, yeah, that's a good point to bring up is that, a lot of people don't understand there's a few steps in between accepted offer. And
while we were just sitting here and you were explaining it, I was like, what image came in my head was Thanksgiving Day. You know how everybody's cooking in the kitchen all at the same time and you guys are like, get out of my, whatever.
I'm not, but I'm not a good cook. Sorry.
Are you watching the Cowboys game? Is that what you're doing?
Might be watching some football. Yeah. Yeah.
And I imagine that, right? A good meal with all your friends and all your family, it takes time, it takes effort, it takes coordination. So be patient, be understanding. If your, lender is asking for something, just give it to them. It is not worth, I already gave that to you 4 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. Just know they are juggling so much. And so your patience as a consumer, if you can muster it, will get you very far and it will alleviate that emotional piece.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We're living in wild times. I think like with technology, there's pros and cons. And I think about how multiple conferences I'm at where as we embed more technology to make things easier and faster, we're also creating efficiencies, which are great, but efficiencies mean, hey, you used to make this amount doing 1 or 2 transactions. Now you're going to be 5 times more efficient, 5 times more clients get paid 1/5 of it. So you're going to do it for cheaper. So ultimately, like as a consumer, you win, you get a lower price on all the things you get, but the professionals you're working with, a lot of this stuff still needs human involvement. And when there's 37 clients that one processor is trying to process loans for, and there's 52 people that this escrow officer is trying to help walk through escrow, it's a lot.
It is so much. And it's not like buying a pair of shoes at Nordstrom, right? You want to think that it is because it's the biggest purchase of your life and everybody's doing their best to make it feel that way for you, but because there's so many facets. I mean, it would be like going to Nordstrom to get that pair of shoes and they'd have to make the shoes for you
Right,
while
yeah,
you're there, right?
right.
And you need the leather and you need this guy and that guy and
foot,
measure your
we'll
foot
get
and
you
do
all
all the
ready to
thing.
roll.
Yeah. So just I would say, the misconception is that people think it's so easy, so slam dunk. Everything is done and accounted for. And as much I have a lot of respect for the individuals and the professionals in our industry because they work very hard. This isn't like your typical white collar. It's not. I mean, this is like it gets tough. It gets down and dirty.
Yeah. Well, I think I told this to somebody recently, and I think it's really true. Those of us that really care, it's the hardest for, because when you're handling this large transaction, you realize it and you feel it as that, like, hey, this family's home is on my shoulders. Their home purchase on my shoulders. Like, I need to make sure I get them to the finish line. So like any underwriting request that seems crazy that they're upset about, I'm upset about too. Any hiccup in the
Yes.
loan where it's like, oh my gosh, we didn't realize, the solar was on there, or they had the student loan. And, a lot of times that stress doesn't even make it to the client.
Yes.
We're protecting them from it. And we're on the back end like, oh my gosh, I just closed a loan that had 46 conditions. It's like, I should not even.
No wonder your stomach hurts.
Yeah. And so yeah, there's a little bit of stress involved with this job, but ultimately trying to do our best. Picking the right professionals, generally speaking, like 9 times out of 10, it's a relatively smooth process. And you get some where in real estate, there's always going to be surprises. They're always going to be like, oh, lien popped up. Oh, didn't realize that you quit your job last week. Things like that.
Yeah.
But you mentioned fraud.
Yes.
And that's a popular one. I don't think it can be said enough. So we might as well talk about wire fraud. I think it was only 3 months ago. Somebody in my office had a first-time buyer wire $55,000 to the wrong people. And so I'm sure you've got tons of stories. For the listener, when you get into contract and you're sending your money to title, we're talking about title being this third party that's holding the money for everybody and it's going to disperse to the sellers, buyer's money and money from lender. Your earnest money goes in, $5,000 money gets wired, and then you've got $176,000 more due at close. Make sure that's the same wire instructions you got initially from the same title company, because as companies get smarter and technology gets better, thieves get smarter and better and hack into emails. And it's like Natalie Dudding with a dot.
Yes.
At,
whatever.
titlecompany.com, whatever it is. So be careful. Wire fraud is definitely a problem.